So, hi, Maija. We want to thank you because your film, The Fantastic, is very strong, was very strong for us, but also for the audience. And you wouldn't be surprised as a visual artist that we see also references to paintings by Gerhard Richter, because you're using glitches in these huge landscapes. And maybe you could tell us about your references, your work, and of course about the fantastic, how it started and why it exists.
Well, it's quite a long story. Maybe I try to answer first to the first question. The aesthetics of the fantastic are actually created by somehow like practical needs to solve certain problems. And I am a visual artist, and I work also with documentary film, and these two things cannot be really separated. I think it's this, everything is the same for me. But when we think of the aesthetics in the fantastic, is quite unusual for my previous work. It's not really typical. It's really chosen because of this topic, and it was kind of the only way to tell this story and make this film. I can tell you then later why is that. But the film itself, I worked with it during quite a long period, around 6 years, not of course all the time, but it was quite complicated, and also it required some time to make the decisions and do the right decisions with how to make this film. And it started when I was in South Korea, in Seoul, in an artist residency in 2013. And that time, the political situation between two Koreas was really intense. North Korea had started a nuclear test after a pause. And North Korea was a lot in the news, in the media. And I paid attention to how North Korean people were presented. And I paid attention that it was always presented as uniform group of people or victims, but not really individuals. And as we all know, it's the individuals everywhere. And even though the life conditions can be very hard, there is still some principles of life are same everywhere and so on. So I got somehow a bit irritated of this stereotypical image of showing this group of people, and I got very interested in of knowing, like, how do you see the world and experience our reality if you have been living in such conditions where you don't have access to information, or you cannot rely at all to the information what is offered. Of course, today, in today's world, we have similar problems, but it's much more it's so much more extreme there. And so I started to find some ways how to meet former North Korean people, and it was just personal interest in the beginning. And then I heard about this rather big smuggling business to North Korea over Chinese border of foreign movies, and how common it is there, and so on. And then in the quite beginning, I realized, okay, yeah, this is the way to make this film, because I didn't want to make a film about North Korea. I have no place to tell about the political situation and so on. But what I felt I had reasons and ability to tell and make a film about these people who just have this very special background. And the film is telling about how we see the reality, like it's more telling about our world. So when I heard of this smuggling business, I realized, okay, this is the way. So when I make the interviews, I didn't ask about the life in North Korea. We were just discussing about films, about movies, and how to watch the movies. And then, of course, the discussion was spread around, but I never really asked about the life in North Korea. Of course, I was very tempted to do so. But
yeah, and you created a reflection which is almost philosophical about how to be in this kind of system or be outside this kind of system. What is, I mean, what I had the impression at a certain moment that these people are missing these moments where they could watch something which was illegal. And so probably it's wrong because they are not missing the system. It's very complicated to live politically, but still they have shown this curiosity which have individuals. But usually you work, you told us that you work differently. How do you work?
About the aesthetics, why I chose to use this way of visual effects and VHS analog video effects is totally due to the film itself. It was kind of the only way to make this film. But mostly like the aesthetics, what I use, it's like I use a lot of documentary image, film documentary scenes, and then of course the result is then of course based on how it is edited and so on. But I don't really use like digital effects in my work. Sometimes for in very slight way, but not so strongly. And here, as in many of the people I interviewed for the Fantastic, they had watched these films a longer time ago from videotapes, and so the quality of the movies had already changed. It was not only the perspective, how they watched at this representation of reality shown in these fictional films, but also it had already altered on the way. And the later then the films were mostly distributed, if we use this word, on files, which might have been like very compressed, and also the quality was then different what we are used to in cinema, for instance, of course. And so we use this analog video quite a lot. And also when I made collaboration with VFX designer Olli Leppänen, he made the technical, he built the effects, but we designed them together. And it was really, really nice collaboration, really enjoyed it. And the idea was that if there is a fictional effect happening in this image, like built on the documentary footage, then it just has to be totally obvious that that the audience immediately realized, aha, okay, now we are going to Mars with a space rocket. This very likely is not true. And then I kind of don't need to explain it. it's kind of, it is documentary footage which has been altered. And I think there's no need for kind of explaining this because it's obvious for everyone. And then I also really enjoyed using this VHS video because I had quite a mixed feelings with filming in North Korea, as you have to do it very quickly and without permission. There was no chance to ask people permission, can I film you, and so on. And I really feel it's ethically quite complex question that if somebody just goes and hey, it's a rare footage I film here, I come here to North Korea and film these people, I think it's not fair. So I kind of wanted to make people less recognizable and kind of to turn this idea of rarity totally upside down. So I really enjoyed of circulating this footage I had filmed through VHS tapes and making it totally unrecognizable. Somehow like this part of the process very much.
You were talking about the people that you interviewed and how they were talking about movies that they had seen sometimes years ago. Do you have the impression that they are different kind of spectators, that there are different kind of audience, that they look at the movies differently? Because they were talking about films like Rambo, but had like a very interesting point of view. So I was wondering about what kind of audience they are.
It's my like principal question, like before I started the interviews, was that kind of what I expected was that I wanted to ask these people that when they watch a fiction film, it's a representation of our reality, but it is fictional. And when we look at like a mainstream Hollywood film, for instance, we can quite clearly know what that tries to depict the reality and what is totally fictional, because we do have some background information. But when you don't have, how can you know what is fictional and what is part of the reality? And this kind of this was my main interest. But actually, when I made the interviews, it turned out that it was really much more of my kind of expectation of prejudice. It was, how to say, the answers, they are much more subtle. It's there is no clear, it's not really that what is true or what is not, but it really tells, I feel it tells something quite crucial about how we interpret the reality, that it is really, really delicate, and there are so many levels on interpreting things what you see around. But for them, it was most of them actually did have subtitles. For instance, a guy talking about Matrix, he did have subtitles in Korean, because many of these films there are first brought from South Korea to China and then to North Korea, and there are subtitles. So he did understand the dialogue and so on, but he still just was not interested in the science fiction part of the story. And what was interesting was that, hey, yeah, there is a mobile phone. I have heard of it, but I have never seen it. So that was the line what he was following. So from these cultural reasons, people very often started to pay attention to something, but we don't even pay attention at all. And I also enjoyed of kind of turning around of our prejudices and expectations, like how we, because we don't have any information on North Korea and how we imagine something we don't know about. So I really liked in the answers, some answers were kind of don't fit to these expectations. For instance, one woman, she first time in her life she saw slaughtering in a Western movie, and she was shocked because she had never really thought of how animals are killed when they're eaten. And so she was really shocked that in Western world they are so cruel that they are killing animals. Mm-hmm. I wasn't thinking that it happens there as well.
It's the restriction of time brings us to, unfortunately, because it's very pleasant to talk about your film and how you yeah, you gave us an aspect which is very interesting for being someone who is encapsulated in a system. But can you maybe, do you have new projects? Can you tell us something?
Well, yeah, during last year, I actually could film because I had a project which was filmed in a forest with very small crew. So I could work, but it's an installation, like multi-channel work for an exhibition, which is now, of course, postponed due to pandemic. So it's now postponed with 2 years. So I don't know yet what to do with this film, because there is also like a short film coming for festival distribution. But because the main target is this exhibition, I haven't really decided now what to do. So, but yes, I've been lucky to be able to work now also during the pandemic.
So the museums are closed in Finland?
Actually, some are now opening,
Okay.
but because of these quite long periods that museums have been closed, of course, the future programming has been totally put upside down, and there are still so many uncertainties. And because there are some contracts which can't be postponed because it's kind of maybe some exchange exhibition with some other museum, they are sticking there, but artists' exhibitions are going even further. So it's frustrating at the moment, but what can we do?
So we wish you luck, and again, thank you very much for your work and for accepting to talk with us. And I hope we can meet someday
Me
for
too.
real in Luxembourg or in Finland.
Yeah, it's really pity that the travel is not possible. It had been so interesting to visit the festival, and I so really meet these events in real life. But that's what everybody does, I guess. Hope.
So see you hopefully very soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I hope so.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.